setting new standards in podcast excellence. You have joined the WBT, fully focused on business and taxes. Here is your host, Michael Lodge.
And welcome to the WBT. This is Michael Lodge. I'm glad you've joined me. I'm back in South Carolina. I'm in front of my microphone and in my studios, and it feels a lot better than holding up my cell phone every day when I was doing my podcast from California. I tell you, it was a long drive. I had to drive from Burbank, California, all the way to where did I drive to? I drove to Florida, and I had to go to the University of North Florida graduation for a friend that was getting his doctorate degree, and I was very proud of Sean for completing that. So that's done with, so now he's on to bigger and better things and doing great things in his life. You always like to see people who have this ability to take on projects and complete them 100%, and he did a really great job. But from the very beginning, when I've known him, when he was first beginning and starting out in his nursing, all the way until now, until he finished his doctorate degree, I'm very proud of him. It's always good to have people that you can be proud of, and Sean did a great job at what he did. So I came back to South Carolina. Luckily, I had this project going on for the last 2 years on building a southern porch onto my house in South Carolina. Every southern house needs a southern porch where they can put their rocking chairs out there and drink mint juleps. So I started building one 2 years ago, but it was one bad contractor after another. So now I'm down to putting in the final base for the steps, doing the final painting, and it's all done. And then the back porch is all done, and we can now move on to bigger and better things, which says, put it up for sale. And the reason I say that is because I've decided that this has been a very hard decision for me. I have been in private practice in California now since 1984. Now, that's a long time in California. A lot of firms don't last that long in California because it's just such an up and down state. But I've lasted since that time, and I've built up a client base, and I've weeded out my client base. I've done everything that a good firm should do. But now I've come to the point where I don't believe I can afford to live in California anymore. I've come to the point where California office space is so expensive. Can you imagine? Now think about this. I went into an executive suite type situation in Burbank, California. Got 140 square feet, not very big, plus an outside cubicle for my other staff. That cost me more than renting office space in other states. It cost me $1,900 per month. Sometimes up to $2,000, depending if I've had to pay for parking for my clients. But it is so expensive now to live there and to do business in California that I've come to the conclusion that I have got to make a move. Now, I thought that South Carolina would be a good move, but in South Carolina, it's that good old boy network. You know, it's who you know. And I haven't been here long enough to know anybody. And I've been so busy with this construction project that I really have not met anybody in South Carolina, plus going back and forth to California all the time. But I do know people, and I know businesses in Florida, in Orlando, Florida. Now, Orlando, I started to do an office before, but I got into a legal battle that I had to run back to California and take care of, and I've been back there for ever since then. It's been over 6 years. But I still know people in Orlando because I've always kept in contact. So I think that I have come to my final conclusion in this, is that my next move, to move my office space and move my business, will be in Orlando. Now, my business has changed over the years, so I can pretty much move everything. My technology has changed that I can do tax returns and mediation work anywhere that I put my office down at. With mediation work, I can do it face-to-face, or we can do it on the internet. So that is probably what I'm decided to do because, listen, Florida does not have a personal income tax. They don't have as much red tape to start a business in Florida. And it's just a better place to do business. A little bit more relaxing than Los Angeles. I have become so frustrated with Los Angeles because the roads stink. Traffic, literally from my place where I stay in California while I'm working there is literally 5 minutes away, but it takes me sometimes 45 minutes just to drive 5 minutes away. 5 miles away. It does not make sense to be frustrated in a city or a place in California that doesn't offer me a more peaceful way of life. Dealing with issues every single day and then having to deal with traffic and having to deal with higher taxation, having to deal with higher rent costs, it adds up too quickly. Can you imagine? I'm renting space in a professional building. If I want to use a conference room, they charge me $100 per hour to rent that conference room, even though I'm already paying them $1,900 a month. So they get you every which way that they can. Now, in Orlando, for me to rent a conference room, it's $25 an hour, $20 to $25 an hour. You see, there's a huge difference there. They make it more feasible and less costly to operate in Orlando, Florida. So, that's my final decision. It was a hard one to make. Can you imagine being in business since 1984 and having to move out of the state that you love because the costs are so expensive? They're out of this world. Can you imagine paying $5 for a gallon of gasoline? When in South Carolina, it's $2.50 here, I think. It's about in the $2.50. So you understand my quandary of deserting the state that I was born in and also deserting the state that I've been in business in most of my life and now having to uproot and move to a state that's more friendlier to me. So August of this year will be my last month in Southern California. It's the last month that I can stay there. It's a sad situation when a state chases out good business, good people out of their state. Because they don't care about the individuals, but they care about gaining power, the politicians I'm talking about, gaining power and really destroying a perfectly good state. So off I go to a brand new experience. I'm not afraid. I'm not concerned about this at all. In fact, I find it to be a new challenge in life, and I love challenges. So, and I'm sure that a lot of you people out there in California who have businesses, who have families, you're being pulled from side to side. Some of your family wants to stay there. Some of them want to move out of state. But I tell you, at some point in time, you just have to make the decision for yourself and what's right for you. Especially if you are in the getting to that retirement period of your life where you have got to live cheaper. In California, you're never going to live cheaper. Property taxes are way... Can you imagine? Now think about this. When I lived in Los Angeles, I lived up in the hills, my property taxes were $18,000 per year. Here in South Carolina, it's $500 per year. $200 for the extra lot I have to the side of me. So $700 is what I pay in property taxes for 2 acres compared to a little tiny lot up on the hill on the side of a bank. It's one of those hardest decisions that you have to make in order to say, okay, what is best for me, what is best for my business, and what is best for my survivability in these next few years. And I know that you are being pulled this way too. I've talked to friends who say they want to move out of the state of California, but their children want to stay. If their children would move with them so they could be next to their grandchildren and everything that happens to, in families, they would make the decision to move right now. And I know people are looking, my friends are looking at places in Arizona and North Carolina, South Carolina. And by the way, South Carolina is the 5th place where Californians, the 5th state of popularity where Californians are moving out to, because you can still buy a 4-bedroom home here, 2 baths, on a half an acre for $190,000 to $250,000, depending on what size of home that you really want. So can you imagine selling your home for almost $800,000 and buying a home comparable to it in South Carolina for $200,000, $300,000 if you really want to splurge? So you see the temptation there, because people are seeing the advantages and the economic advantages of moving to other states that are more friendly and have lower costs and are very friendly to businesses moving in. I tell you, this was a hard decision, but I had to make it. I can no longer stay in a state that doesn't want me there. And that's really what I feel. They do not want businesses in California anymore. They want it to become a government-owned state. And that's what's scary about California. Pretty soon the taxes are going to be so high that no one's going to be able to pay their taxes. Pretty soon home prices are going to be so high that no one will be able to purchase a home. Can you imagine, for 300 square foot studio apartment in Glendale, California, it's $1,800 a month for 300 square feet. That's a bathroom and an open space. $1,800 for 300 square feet. Doesn't make sense. It's not good business sense. So people move to South Carolina, where BMW is and Boeing is and all the little companies that support all these bigger companies. They move to places like here because they can begin their lives. I remember when I was first starting out and I was living in San Francisco. And at that point in time, I thought, you know what? I just cannot afford to buy anything in San Francisco. So I flew over to visit my parents over in Phoenix, Arizona. And I saw homes for $35,000, $45,000. Now, this was in the 1980s. But that's what I saw, and I said, I have got to make a move. Now, I may not like Arizona. I may not want to be there. I've never enjoyed the desert living, but I had to do it because I had to begin. I had to start someplace. I had to buy my first home. So I bought my first home there, then I bought my second home there, and then finally I decided, okay, I've been able to purchase my homes. I have enough cash saved up. I can now move back to California. Talked to a friend the other day. I said, will you ever move back to California? Because he's living in Washington, D.C. He says, roads always lead back to California at some point in time. Maybe. But the problem is you get into that lifestyle back east here, or in southern states, or in Arizona, where life is less expensive, more enjoyable, less stress, and they never want to go back to California. Now, I did, because I wanted to start a business in California. So now it's several years later. It's a long time. Time has passed, and now it's time to make that decision again of what is best for me as an individual, and as a business. Now, there's going to be changes in my life, which is fine. Change is good. I'm changing every single day because I'm always trying to experiment with new aspects of business. In fact, I'm working on a new project starting next week that I'm really kind of excited about. But I won't be doing it from California. It will be done in Florida. So I have to say goodbye to California, and I have to move to a state that says, hey, we want you here. If you have any questions, this is Mike Lodge. It's good to be back home. It's good to be back with my dogs. Send me an email to mlodge@lodge-co.com, and I'll be more than happy to talk with you. Join me daily now because I'm going to start doing my daily podcasts, and we'll get back up to speed. I think I'm getting very close to podcast number 600, so that's a lot of podcasts. That's a lot of talking. But I did it. So let's get to it. Send me those questions if you have them. Go to my website at www.lodge-co.com and see what all that I can do for you. This is Mike Lodge. I'll talk with you very, very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.
World of Business and Taxes on WBT.
This is brought to you by Lodge & Co., a business and tax advisory firm where your success is our goal. Call us today toll-free at 888-681-1518 or visit us at www.lodge-co.com and learn more about what we can do for you. Lodge & Co., your source for sound business and tax services.